How can we support our parents through a telehealth model? That is the topic of our show today. I had a conversation with Lily and Sarah from Inner Circle Autism, and they put together a very dynamic talk for the CASP conference last year about telehealth behavioral parent training, a model of support. And what's amazing about this is that Sarah shares, I believe it was Sarah, that she was in a conference and she heard somebody talk. And from that, she had an idea about how they could support their parents. And they put together this parent training model, which I think is fascinating. As a speaker, I do a lot of talks, and I love to hear when people are taking a bit of information and applying it to their own clinic, to their own caseload. You're going to want to tune into this episode because we talk step by step. What are they using for their parent training model? What are the actual logistics and business side of, will this be profitable for your practice? How do you let people know, hey, this is a service that we provide and it can be helpful? Lily serves as the research and family support supervisor at Inner Circle Autism Network, and she shares her experience with providing this model. Sarah serves as the chief clinical officer at Inner Circle Autism Network, and she shares all the facets of, if you want to offer this as a provider, as a clinical organization, what would that look like? I'm so excited for you to hear this conversation with myself, Sarah, and Lily today.
I'm Rose Griffin, a speech therapist, board-certified behavior analyst, and founder of ABA Speech. It wasn't all that long ago that I felt overwhelmed by providing therapy for my autistic students and any students who were not yet speaking. Fast forward through many doubts, tears, research, and courses, and you will see the framework that I use today and share with over 60,000 readers weekly. One that will help you support your students and feel more confident in the process. I created the ABA Speech podcast to give you simple, step-by-step strategies to help you reach all of your students wherever they are on their communication journeys. If you're a speech therapist, BCBA, RBT student, or parent who's looking to help all students develop a way to communicate with the world, you are in the right place, friend. Let's get started.
Welcome to the show. We have two very special guests today, Lily Darnell and Sarah Varillas. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Thank you.
We're absolutely thrilled to present today.
So you formalized a telehealth behavioral parent training model, which sounds so interesting to me. And we have not really talked about that on the podcast. So that is what we are getting into today. I guess what prompted you to create this program, to develop it?
Yeah, so I was at a conference in 2022 and heard Dr. Ryan Martin presenting just preliminary findings of a telehealth program that him and colleagues were working on. And while I'm sitting there, it's important to me that anytime I go to a conference, I have something to take away. It's going to improve my practice or improve the quality of services for those that I serve. And that was just an absolutely phenomenal talk. And the way that they laid out the program, which we'll talk about today, just seems so applicable, not just to the beneficiaries that they were serving, but those in where we serve today in our clinic-based setting. So the clinic-based treatment, modality is not necessarily going to be something that every child should or is able to access. And I mean that to, the clinic is very restrictive. So some children and those that are needing ABA services should be served out in the community. And maybe it's the case that it would be effective for just parents to receive the services, or maybe they can't access it altogether. And so this seems like a really great way to give access to care across all of the caregivers that are calling us every single day to receive ABA.
Oh, I love that. And I love, as somebody who presents at conferences and presents a lot, I love that you said that you like to have one thing to take away because I'll do an hour talk. And then at the end, I'll say, like, take away one thing that you can translate into your therapy practice. And so, I have been a clinician for over 20 years. So I'm sure the person that Ryan Martin or whoever you said there is going to be really excited if he hears this show because that's the thing. When you present something, you're just hoping that others will be thinking about their current clinic or their current position and how they can take that and then actually take action. Because a lot of people don't take action. We go to conferences, we network, we hear all these great talks, but then when you get home and you unpack your bag and you check your emails, then to actually take action, it's really hard to do. So I'm excited to learn about this. Can you tell us, like, who would be a good candidate for this type of model? You talked about it a little bit, but I'm a speech therapist and BCBA. What I think is cool about ABA services is that you are required to do parent training, it seems. Now, for speech therapists, that's not the case. And we would love to have more access to parents and to be able to talk to parents. When you're at a clinic, it's like you can get a really good conversation in those last couple minutes of therapy. In a school-based position, it's a lot harder. You may only see a parent during an IEP meeting or leading up to it. So I love that about ABA, but it's like we get to offer this parent training, but oftentimes we don't really know like the best way to utilize that time. So that's really cool that we can do it. But can you tell us who would be a good candidate for this type of model?
Sure, absolutely. So really, we aim to target a few different populations. One of those being families that are currently on wait lists for services. As we know, there is an insane need for services, which has made very long wait lists. So children that are waiting for spots in clinic, we can get started with more tailored parent training as almost a jump start for when services for clinic-based services start. Additionally, we target families that are coming out of in-clinic services to lesser restrictive. They've met their goals, but we're looking for therapeutic maintenance of those goals in these other settings. And then the third one nearest to my heart is individuals and families living in underserved areas. So we know that rural families really do not have a lot of access to ABA providers or healthcare in general. So we want to provide a lifeline to ABA through this parent training model. So really working with those underserved populations has been very motivating and very rewarding because they feel seen and they feel like they have some support. So those are those main groups that we're really trying to target with the parent training program.
Well, I love that because I live here in Ohio, which there's a lot of rural areas, and I also am licensed in Washington State. So we do a cool program up in Washington State where the kids get 12 weeks of ABA and 12 weeks of speech therapy. It's really hard for clinic owners to find somebody in person for that 12 weeks because the census kind of ebbs and flows as how many kids that they have that need it. But I can assure you that that is a very rural state. So maybe some of my counterparts up in Washington State will be inspired by this episode as well, because it's a big state and there's lots of rural areas where there probably is just not like this condensed area of ABA providers. So I love that. What are the main components of the parent training model?
Really, we utilize the RUBI Parent Training curriculum for disruptive behavior. So that is also based on the research and work that Dr. Ryan Martin, as Sarah mentioned, has completed. So we utilize the RUBI Parent Training curriculum in session-based formats with parents that are individualized to their child, and really they work in a cumulative fashion. So each session we talk about the topic at hand and how it relates directly with their child and strategies and behavioral tools that they could be utilizing immediately. So really it's modeled directly off of RUBI, which has been wonderful.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about RUBI. So is RUBI, if somebody is listening, a BCBA, and maybe they're a newer BCBA, that is something that is, can you get that on Amazon or is that readily available? Where would somebody purchase that training curriculum? Is it a book or is it digital resources as well? Or you can go both ways.
It's both.
Okay.
It's an evidence-based parent training curriculum. Really great research is coming out with it, and the formal training is offered through the RUBI website, and included in that is links to workbooks, worksheets, as well as videos that they have made, which aid when I'm presenting that to the parent. And then I've put it together in kind of a PowerPoint format because I am a PowerPoint nerd.
Yeah,
And
same.
and then that way we can follow along, reference the worksheets, reference the videos, and it all is this really, really well done package by RUBI. So I can't recommend that enough. But if they go online, clinicians will be able to access the book as well as the formal training if they're interested.
Okay, so that's great. So then your talk at CASP was really about taking this RUBI curriculum and bringing it to life through more of a telehealth platform. And are these for client? Are you guys in North Carolina? Is that where you're located? Yes. Okay,
Yes, really in North Carolina.
Okay. So were you seeing a need based on like your current clients and people statewide that this was a need to have this delivered through telehealth? Were there barriers to getting into the clinic? Is that where the need started?
Absolutely. So, kind of pushing through Dr. Ryan Martin's study, they were serving kids in Michigan, which is also another rural state and rural community, including, it's also difficult for providers by county. They have to credential and get a contract essentially to provide services. So, large wait lists. We extended that because at Inner Circle, we actually serve Arkansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and now newly North Carolina. The area of North Carolina that we're serving is actually Fuquay-Varina, which is a little bit away from Raleigh, where a lot of our families were driving over 45 minutes to an hour to get services in Raleigh Central. And so our hope is to continue to expand the service model outside of just that central area, because North Carolina is also another state in which you wouldn't think, but does have a lot of rural areas and communities. And so each of these states, our goal is to have this provided not just for the families on the wait list, not just for those that are transitioning out of clinic-based services, but for those in which it's not necessary. The parents, might just need a little bit of resources and techniques shared with them, but also those families who don't have access to care.
Okay. Yeah. Because I think as a parent, it would be nice to be able to log on and to be able to get support. I don't have an autistic child, but I do have 3 kids and work. And I think parents just have a lot on their plate. And so I don't know if COVID changed things. I was just had another podcast. We were talking about staffing and COVID and like there are a lot of issues there, but like trying to like get to places, like and do things like now the access with the computer. I feel like COVID was terrible, but it did make people realize like, wow, Zoom is really powerful and I can get a lot of great information actually from my house, which logistically might just be easier for people that are navigating family schedules and family routines. So I think that is empowering for people to hear. And I think sometimes just hearing somebody else who's doing it makes people think like, oh yeah, that would be a need for us. And this could be a really nice way to support, our state or, our already existing parents. So how can a clinician get started with putting this together for the parents that they service? Let's say that somebody listens to our podcast, feels really inspired, maybe looks up Dr. Ryan Martin, looks up that talk, looks up RUBI, and wants to put it together. What would be some starting stepping stones in doing this in their own clinics?
Sure. So if anybody is interested, that CASP talk does go into even more logistics and how to get this started, not just if you're at an agency already and kind of pitching to them the utility of this type of model, but if they wanted to do something on their own, which I think the need is vast in clinicians truly doing this, whether, again, it's with a company or on their own. So the first thing to start is just understanding licensure in the state that they're in, all the basics of just practicing in general. And then also understanding credentialing and the payers that are in that region and knowing, do they even allow 97156, which is the parent training code, to be done via telehealth? And that's just the basics of, is this model going to work? from a business perspective.
Mm-hmm.
From there, understanding that there's going to be certain payers who do or don't allow the assessment portion to get a child started and a family started in this service to also be done via telehealth. There's some payers who require some of the assessment to be done in person. And so then does that kind of change the radius of the clients in which you can serve? Like maybe it's the first time you go out to their home and then the rest of the sessions are telehealth, or perhaps you don't bill the assessment, but you conduct all of the requirements needed there, and you just ask the payer for the authorization for 97156 once you complete an assessment. So we do still do an entire assessment process. We follow all of the payer guidelines that are required of that, submit the authorization. It just depends on payer whether we bill or not. And for some that are going to do this on their own outside of an agency, that's a big deal to understand is what you're going to be reimbursed for or not, and making that part of the business model. The next step is, again, after you've understood what those assessment requirements are, is understanding how many kids you need in the program and families in the program if you were to do this on your own. And so Lily and I really worked hard to understand how many families she should serve per week. That's also reasonable, but understanding that there's going to be cancellations. We've all had those weeks where we cannot even think about after work attending another meeting or things like that. And our families experience that. And very high stress levels, again, like you had shared before, multiple siblings that may have recitals and things that you just forget about on your schedule. And so we bake in a cancellation rate of about 20% of the sessions per week. And so then, therefore, we have about a goal of 30 clients in the program and about 20 to 25 of those being scheduled each week. I'll let Lily kind of talk through just the logistics once you kind of have those numbers all in place from a business model perspective, over into just the maintenance or ramping, because that took a lot of time and energy from her.
Sure. That's great information. Thank you for sharing those specific numbers, Sarah. I love that.
Yeah, I will say definitely the ramping has proven to be a unique challenge because it is a different modality of ABA that payers are not as familiar with, and certainly not families. So we have spent a lot of time educating, our population to say, hey, this is available. This is what it looks like. I think the main point is that this is a caregiver mediated treatment. So I think sometimes parents will think, oh, so this would require my kid to sit in front of a, computer screen and do ABA. They're not going to do that. No, that's not what this is. It's caregiver mediated. So educating families about that. And sometimes when we're looking into these rural communities, they are very unfamiliar with any form of ABA, let alone a unique, innovative way to access ABA. So it's been a lot of still educating people that we can do this, that we can see results, and kind of having families think outside the box and see if this is something that they think they could benefit from. So,
oh, I love that.
So Lily always bakes in a meeting to discuss those things with the families. And so I think that's something that somebody should consider is meet and greets is what we call them. And so she'll run through, I'm going to be presenting slides, and you'll have the ability to practice things outside of our meetings. And the next time I'm going to ask you about it and see how it went with your family, and be honest with me. It's okay if you didn't get to it. Let's just center on there's going to be great weeks and there's not going to be, not so great weeks. Maybe a full moon is out. And so we're okay with that happening, and we're going to continue through this curriculum. And I think that's the part where she develops that relationship with them from the beginning to where they can show up as themselves each meeting, but then also decide if it's going to be for them. And there have been families who have told Lily, I love this, but not now. And that's okay. And that's healthy. So somebody wanting to start this should plan for, maybe they need a 6-month ramp, just work out the kinks with the payers, work out the kinks of how are you going to be attracting or understanding how to get your services out there for families to call you. But that took us about 6 months to really get a good, healthy pipeline going, and then about a year to get a much healthier one to a point. And so anybody who, again, is wanting to think through, what do I want to do 5 years from now? Now's the time to start something like this, because I truly think that when we think of the longevity of the field, this is going to be so healthy for us. Is after the clinic, how do we allow parents to realize that there are so many wins and so many opportunities where their child is excelling in the community, and it's okay if there's times where things don't go as planned. But here's some techniques on how to manage that, where you don't necessarily need a clinic again, or you don't need in-home services. You have the techniques to work through those moments.
Yeah, it's kind of like empowering parents. I love that. I batch my podcast episodes for those that are listening, or maybe you notice my outfit's the same for a couple episodes. But I had Kate Swenson on from Finding Cooper's Voice, and she talked all about starting her community and starting writing because she just felt so alone when she got an autism diagnosis for her son. So I feel like sometimes parents just need a coach, a confidant, a support. And it seems like this is a really nice way to provide that, and saying like, yeah, maybe you don't need those clinical services anymore, or the in-home or whatever it is, but you still need a touch point because it's a journey, right? Everybody's on a journey. So I think this really meets parents where they're at. Oh, I love this. This is great information. I think that you gave a lot of really good logistical information, technical information to see people are thinking about this, like how could they potentially get started, investigate further. So thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find out more about you and your work? Is there a website for it's Inner Circle Autism, correct? Wonderful.
Yes, innercircleautism.com. They can also reach out to us on the phone number, which we can provide, and our intake team would absolutely discuss and has all of the information about the program if someone is interested. They can also check us on our Cast Talk if they are a provider out there who wants to do something similar for themselves. And we're also open to those questions. Like you had said, anytime you're doing a conference talk or a podcast, you want people to have questions and reach out because you came on and you wanted to talk about something you're so passionate about.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was great to connect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.